What is the best way to ensure that your indie film stays on time and under budget?
Don't procrastinate.
Is that what we did?
Absolutely not.
Welcome to Indie Film Podcast. I'm Victoria.
And I am Chuck. This week we're going to start documenting our journey to make a 10-minute musical short film in 1 month with $0.
For the 2026 Idaho Film Family Festival and Competition, we were given 4 months to make a movie. So with 28 days left, we're finally getting started.
Yeah, so we're going to document the mistakes that we've made so far with this film process, and we're also going to share the stakes of this particular film festival. Do you want to start with that, Victoria?
Absolutely. So the Idaho Film Family Festival and Competition is pretty straightforward. You can make a movie up to 10 minutes total. It's due on March 20th.
Right now it is February 23rd.
Yes.
For everybody watching, we're recording this on February 23rd.
Yes. And you cannot use generative AI in the making of this film, which is fair. That's fine. Mm-hmm. We also have to work with somebody new, which I do love that aspect of this festival, actually. And it is a local festival. We have somebody from, at least one team from out of state. Actually, no, we have 2 teams from out of state this year.
Yeah.
Somebody from Wyoming and somebody from California, so that'll be really exciting. And it is limited spots. There are only 14 teams, I believe, and it is a guaranteed screening if your project is finished on time. And all the judges are sourced just from all across, I believe, just the United States, but maybe internationally, of people who work in the film industry. And it is an IMDb qualified festival, so the awards can show up somewhere in your repertoire.
And they do have awards, and you've done 2 films with me for this particular film festival. Last year's Dive, and then What's the Worst That Could Happen that I did sound on.
Yes.
And this will be the first indie film podcast actual film production that we're making together. We're co-producing this. And the film festival is, they give you a challenge, obviously, the 4 months to make the 10-minute short, and they give you 2 films to inspire you. And the films that we were given, that were drawn out of a hat to inspire us, were Blade Runner and Detective Pikachu. And so this being the very first indie film podcast production, I feel like the stakes are kind of high, especially since Dive did so well on its film festival run this past 12 months.
Yeah, it's done great, and it was a film I'm really proud of. I got to work with some incredible people on that one, so I'm really excited about that. This one, however, we've been preaching to all of our listeners for 14 months now that we know how to make a movie for no money whatsoever, and now we get to find out. Can we actually do that, or at least learn from our own mistakes?
Yes. So make sure, if you have been listening to the podcast quite a bit, subscribe, follow along. We're going to document this journey very openly, very honestly.
Yes.
And we should probably start with why we decided to do a musical, what the musical is about. Obviously, we're in a little bit of a bind right now because we have such a short time to get this finished. However, we did come up with a story. And you basically finished the script a few days ago.
Yeah.
And I've done over half of the music, at least as one draft. Yeah. And we'll share some of the rough aspects of the brainstorming process with you all in this episode, as well as follow us on social media. We'll do some of that there as well. So do you want to talk about what the film's about and why we decided to go with musical?
Oh, you are definitely going to get to explain why it's a musical.
Okay.
Some of the goals for the film. So Blade Runner and Detective Pikachu don't have a ton of overlap necessarily.
Noir-y.
They are both noir-y,
Yeah.
so that works. But Blade Runner is more of a satire, sort of a political commentary, and Detective Pikachu is based on a game.
Yeah.
So we decided to try to combine those. So we've got sort of a satirical political commentary based on Dungeons and Dragons mechanics, because that felt right. We get to film it in one location, so we get to keep that a little bit simple.
Yes.
There are some more complex post things that we're hoping to do to be able to put people into a gaming world without generative AI, which maybe this wasn't. The generative AI rule is new.
Yeah.
And perhaps the year that rule was introduced wasn't the year to try doing something virtual.
Yes.
But that's okay. It's exciting.
And if you follow us on social media, the vertical video that we released where we were testing the Adobe's new auto masking feature is what we're going to lean into. And if you watch the podcast, you can see that the backdrop in the studio that we record in is pitch black. And we did a test with Victoria and I where we recorded ourselves and in front of this pitch black background, and the masking tool was able to just remove the subject very easily. Which
was awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm impressed that there's an Adobe product that I'm actually saying it did well.
Mm-hmm.
Good job.
Yes.
Good job.
So we're banking on that working well in post. We're going to be shooting in one location. Hopefully the music is locked in and ready to go in the next basically 7 days, because we need to cast people and then also have them learn their lines / learn the melodies. And the reason that the music needs to be locked in a week is that we're going to have everybody lip syncing to the melody of the music, because that's the easiest way to do a musical in my experience.
Typically.
Yeah.
If Hollywood has taught us anything, that's the way they prefer to do it.
Yeah. Then you can make it sound good rather than just having people play it live, which is its own vibe too.
It is.
But that would be a lot trickier to do.
And I want to say Les Mis actually did do that, where they, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments because I know you will, but I want to say that unlike Rent, the movie, where everything was definitely studio recorded, I believe Les Mis, they actually did record the vocals live while they were filming. As opposed to in a studio and then having everybody sync up to it later.
I
guess pretty sure
you could do that. The tricky part would be
having a Hollywood budget.
That's one thing. But from an audio perspective, the reason I want to pre-record the music for a musical and lip sync it is because if people are singing along live, they're going to need to hear the background instrumentation.
Yeah.
And you can mix it in to the actual mix in post, but you will still get some of the background music into the vocal microphone.
Yeah.
And if you add compression to the vocals, which you want to do when you're processing music, like you can get away with a lot more compression for radio broadcast music stuff versus just a regular film.
Oh, that's nice.
And what that does, though, is it turns the background music up then.
Oh.
So then it would bleed into the actual mix.
It'd get a little distracting.
So
it'd sound a little muddy.
Yeah. And the other reason we wanted to do musical is that will open me up. Excuse me. It'll open me up to be able to help out with other things because I'm not going to be doing live sound as much.
Also very true.
Yeah.
But I would like to be clear here, Chuck. Whose idea was it to do a musical?
I had the idea to do a musical.
That's right.
Because the last 12 months we've been traveling around to film festivals to screen dive.
Yeah.
And the films that have won at these festivals have all been really good. However, some of the really strange ones have lived in my head. Yes. Much longer than some of the winners have.
Yes.
Those aren't always mutually exclusive, but there were some really wild films that we saw at these film festivals, and they swung for the fences.
Yeah, and even if you don't quite hit it, it's so much better to swing for it and just go for it, just balls to the wall and hope for the best.
Yes. That's what that's what our philosophy is.
Yeah, maybe it's not a home run, but it'll sure be a fun process to watch.
Yeah, and we could crash and burn. We actually just met with Jesse this morning, who was on the previous episode. We were talking about music and scoring, and we're trying to enlist him to help out with acting, as well as some of the musical ideas and themes in this musical. So we were very open and honest with him during the meeting, saying that we don't know how this is going to work in this timeline because it's very abbreviated.
It's abbreviated. It's going to be quick, but you know what? Quick game's a good game.
Yeah.
Right?
But we did spend a couple months planning this out. The idea of
we did.
It's going to address the male loneliness is going to be part of the theme.
Yeah.
There, where it's a D&D player playing D&D by himself.
Yeah.
With imaginary friends.
Yeah.
It's going to hit on some political satire as well.
Yeah.
A la Blade Runner. And then the D&D board game will have some action figures there that kind of like overlap with Detective Pikachu.
I figure if Detective Pikachu can be sort of based on a game and set in the world of a game, then as long as we make our film kind of set in the world of D&D, then we've done it. That is absolutely inspired by both things.
Yes.
I think it counts.
And it's a deal with the devil type of situation, and we're going to have surrealistic battle scenes, hopefully, that turn out okay, where we're going to use this black background to film.
Or we'll have people pretending to fight in front of a black background because we couldn't make it work.
Yes.
And that's okay, too.
We'll figure something out. So should I go ahead and give a cheap trick?
Yes.
Before we move on to our next portion here? Cash register, bang. So the cheap trick that I want to point out this week, which is something that I did lean on the last couple of days while I was trying to write music for this short film, is a software composer called FL Studio, which very inexpensive, and you can actually use it for free. You can test it out for free. If you get yourself a MIDI keyboard, you can actually use your computer keyboard as an instrument input on the software. So if you're looking to get into composition and you've only been using, like you play an actual piano or you play an actual guitar or whatever, if you want to get into the digital realm, that's kind of a low barrier to entry because it does let you use the demo for free. You can't save anything, but you can mess with the software, see if you like it.
And you can at least test it out, practice it, and learn how to do it.
Correct.
Even if you don't necessarily get to walk away with everything you make.
Yeah. And the other nice thing about that particular software, which is unique to a lot of softwares, is that the program itself works as a plugin on other audio programs, which is kind of weird and like meta in a way, because if you're familiar with audio programs and plugins, like you can get aftermarket plugins that is like a microphone compressor that makes it sound like a old AM radio station, right? These are program plugins that you can use inside of Adobe Audition or Pro Tools or the Macintosh one that I always forget. It's not Final Cut, but they're audio Logic Pro.
Oh, I was like, you are really expecting me to know that program, and I do not.
So a lot of people don't use FL Studio that are in the professional composition world, but if you do get that program, you can then still put it back into Adobe Audition or Pro Tools and use that program within the other program if you like some of the instruments that it has in it.
That's
or
nice.
Whatever.
Or if you get used to the interface and kind of how it works and how it flows and how to build and create in there, then that sort of brings it into your other nonlinear editing situation a little bit better.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's like a little Russian doll ability there to lock into another.
Just nesting dolls.
Nesting dolls into other audio software. So should we talk about
how on earth you write a very bizarre musical in like 12 hours?
Yes.
Yeah, well, lock yourself in a car.
Yes.
I think famous writers often lock themselves in really fancy bougie hotel rooms where they have a lot of wine or whiskey or something. And we opted for the 12-hour car ride back from Boulder City, Nevada.
Yes, Nevada. Man, we got corrected on that one while we were down there.
I've never been harped on my pronunciation of something so strongly before.
It's a very Midwestern pronunciation of a clearly Spanish word.
That's...
We had to look it up because it is Spanish. Las Vegas, which is where we basically went. Boulder City's right outside of Las Vegas for the Damn Short Film Festival. Great festival. We'll do a review about it some point in the future. But yeah, Las Vegas was discovered by a Spanish explorer, which means the meadow because it was actually an oasis.
Yeah.
Previously, didn't know about that. There was like a whole underground water supply
that
no longer exists.
No.
Basically, we used that up. People did the Las Vegasans. I don't know how you'd call them, but we.
I think they're Las Vegans.
Nevada. We were in Nevada, and everybody calls it Nevada, not Nevada.
No, it is not Nevada.
The Spanish pronunciation would be Nevada. So, yes, we drove down to that film festival. And on the way back, you started writing in the car.
Yes.
And you were using me as a rhyming dictionary.
Yes.
Because we had no cell phone service.
No. So that made the writing very exciting.
Yeah. We did not have the internet to help us out.
No.
But it went really well. And
it went well.
We kind of want to talk about how this particular short film, we need to throw away our darlings early because we are going to be recording it to a pre-recorded track. and therefore it's going to be really difficult to cut the film in the edit. The duration of the film will likely be a little bit longer than the musical tracks that we have written, because there's going to be zero live dialogue in this film. And so everything is going to be sung, and that'll all be pre-recorded. So we want to make sure that we cut that down ahead of time. And we actually watched a film that was done in a one-shot where to kind of help us learn where to cut things in the scripting process.
Yeah.
Because we can't cut it in post unless we cut the whole damn thing and throw it out the window.
No, that is not an option. Yeah. So think more opera than musical, I guess.
Yeah.
In that sense.
Do you want to share some of the lines that you've already cut? Because we started off with how many pages within the last 3 days? We went from 10 pages down to 7.
Yeah.
I want to say.
So we've cut quite a bit. And there was a lot that got, just, I guess, for fun here. This is all of our lyrics.
If you're not looking at it online and you're listening to it, there are probably about
a lot of pages and a lot of colored pens.
12. No, that's probably out 15 pages of scribblings in a notebook.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. But there were some that I was actually quite proud of. If there are any D&D nerds, maybe you'll tell me if this is good. I have maxed out charisma in a world that doesn't notice. I thought was very entertaining. Giving main character vibes in an NPC role. There's lag between who I am and who they see. And I've restarted entire timelines just to keep my friends alive.
Well, there we go.
And don't worry, none of those lines have made it into the current draft.
Yeah. And the musical drafting process has been basically me sitting in front of my computer with a guitar, looking at these lyrics, and then Victoria and I changing, adjusting them a little bit to try to fit some music. What we're learning now is that usually a film is about a page a minute-ish.
Yeah.
Right?
Typically.
General rule of thumb, but it feels like we're pushing it more towards a minute and a half per page for music.
Yeah, it's definitely
So we're down
longer.
to 7 pages of lyrics, but we probably need to cut that down closer to 6 in the next week and then lock the music in. But I'll play a little bit of some of this. This is rough recording here, but this is part of 100% transparency.
Yep.
This is the first draft of like a little segment of the intro song. For this film, potentially. I mean, this all
could all change. We don't know
by the time we
yet.
record next week.
She's the land of my creation. All you see is imagination. Look at how this world has grown. But party here, I'm never alone.
So you'll hear how that changes.
Theoretically, we'll be able to
before the
compare
final
that.
product. Yeah.
That'll be a fun little comparison, though.
Yeah.
This is nice.
This is a phone recording versus this is a more rehearsed
Fully
produced, because we will have time. The plan is to shoot in basically a week and a half from now.
Yep.
Over the weekend, but then the post work will still be able to massage the music a lot.
Yes.
Have the people come in, sing their actual parts.
Yes.
Rather than using myself or you possibly as like temp vocals.
Oh, I'm sure they would love that.
Yeah.
They would really enjoy that if I did it.
We just got to get the beats right, and then we can fix the pitching and things like that, and have the people come in and sing the actual parts after they record, or hopefully before they record if time allows.
That would be nice.
Yeah. And we'll get that all hammered out, and we'll still have a couple weeks for post.
Yeah.
Because we'll be wrapped at the beginning of March, and we'll have till the 20th. So I think it's like 2 weeks.
I'm sure that's plenty of time.
Yeah, as long as the VFX go super smoothly.
They always do.
Nothing usually do.
Ever goes wrong in post. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's a t-shirt somewhere.
Yeah, so this is our idea now, and then it'll be fun to see how this changes over the next 4 weeks as we're recording these podcast episodes and updating you all. And then at the end, we'll most likely share it to our newsletter subscribers.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely.
Link.
Yeah, we'll definitely share it to the newsletter subscribers for sure. So that way you can at least see what we've been talking about.
Yeah. So I kind of want to talk about the film Victoria from 2015. not
Yeah.
you, but you
No.
did recommend that we watch this film.
Yes, this one did come up in the research because we were looking at kind of short production time.
Yeah.
And while the overall pre-production time for this film was a little bit longer, I want to say it was closer to a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
They did shoot the entire thing in one take, so it was only a few hours technically
Yeah.
to get the film shot, which is really impressive. But to your point earlier, just like we really can't fix much in post and there's not much we can cut in post, they couldn't do that with this film either because it was a one shot.
Yeah. So I kind of want to share everybody a little bit of the details about the movie Victoria. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend that you watch it.
It actually was a really interesting watch.
Yeah, the director is Sebastian Schipper. The cinematographer, which was very crucial role for a one-shot film that went all over Berlin.
Yeah.
It was all over the place. Sturla Brandt Grovlin, I believe I pronounced that right.
We'll find out.
Yes, correct me if I'm wrong. So basically, it's about a young Spanish woman. She had recently moved to Berlin. She meets some new guy, and they kind of flirt a little bit at the beginning of the movie, and their night basically takes a turn for the worse, and they get kind of pulled into some drama and crime and violence.
Shady moments,
Yeah.
if you will.
And all done in one shot.
Yeah.
The biggest criticism I have for this movie was it was 2 hours and 20 minutes, 2:18 or 2:20,
Yeah.
and I feel like they could have cut the first hour down a lot.
They probably could have. They
Because-
could have trimmed some of it. And to be fair, there are some really human, beautiful moments. The entire first 5 to 7 minutes felt very guttural and relatable as a human, especially if you've ever traveled internationally and maybe you don't 100% know the language and you're sort of still
Yeah.
just feeling things out and you don't know the culture and you don't have a lot of friends yet. So you're kind of traveling alone and it's all from the perspective of this woman, Victoria. And it was just really cool. And it was
Yeah.
very visceral, which was nice. And I really liked that. But yeah, it did drag just a touch.
The first hour was vibe,
yeah.
and I was to the point where I was thinking, I don't know if I can keep watching this movie. And then the plot hit,
Really hard.
and it was great.
So cool.
And so you just see this woman getting pulled into this, they hint at this one guy being involved in crime and having gone to jail. And then all of a sudden he's having a meeting with a dude that he owes a favor and they need to rob some people and they get handed guns. And it was really well done. It turned into an action film at the end.
Yeah, it was nuts.
But as far as our project is concerned, I feel like the lesson there was they needed to kill the darlings on their script early on. But I do want to point out that this
Script is generous.
yes, they had a 12-page basically outline was the quote-unquote script for this film, and most of the dialogue was improvised.
Which is really funny. It reminds me of those dinner theater shows what they do, because that's exactly what they
Yeah.
do. There's an outline that's maybe 10 to 12 pages or so, and
Yeah.
it's just, here are the beats that have to happen, and here's the keys that each actor has to hit, and the beats that have to happen for the story to continue. Otherwise, just go have fun. And so I wonder how much there were a few moments and a few lines that sort of happened. There was one moment where the main guy is on a bicycle and Victoria is then riding passenger instead of trying to actually pedal the bike now.
Yeah.
And he makes a joke like because she'd run into his cigarette and so then it snapped off in his hand and he just looks at her like, you broke my cigarette, and just throws it. And I'm like, there's no way that was scripted.
No.
But it was a nice way to react in the moment. It was entertaining and it was fun. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff like that.
It was a lot of reacting, but I think the lesson that I got out of that was they didn't move to the plot quickly enough, in my opinion. And so when we're dealing with our script, my thought is we need to try to get to the meat of the show, especially since it's a short.
Yeah.
You don't want to build things up, especially a slow burn.
Yeah.
And that film was definitely a slow burn, and then it ignited and took off very quickly. But when you're doing a short film, you want to grab everybody's attention real quick.
Yeah.
And so we have to be very careful with what we're doing to make sure that it's interesting both visually, auditorially, within the first 1 minute.
Yes.
And then get the setting down fast, which I feel like we're close already because that intro song is just under a minute and a half before the rest of the plot comes in.
Yeah.
Where it's establishing the character and the setting.
Yeah.
So, but when you're doing a short film, I feel like even quicker because we did that with Dive where it's like basically 30 seconds. Right?
Yeah, that's right. Because I had a 90-second intro and then I let you look at it for the edit.
Yeah.
And you said absolutely not. And then it ended up at 30 seconds.
Well, it's fun though, too, because we're putting our editing cap on right away.
Yeah, it's kind of wild to be stepping back and not just excited to explore the introductory things and well, we can let the characters kind of play. We have some room. We can get a little extra footage and then adjust as we go. And none of that is happening. It's the complete opposite. It's actually, well, do we really care if we know too much about the backstory? Or, well, how important is it that there's that much detail to what the actual quest that these characters are going on is?
Yeah.
Do we need much or can it just be, hey, go get a lamp?
Yeah.
Like maybe that's enough.
Yeah, and trust in the audience. How much can you trust the audience? Because sometimes I don't know what your experience has been in this situation, but you question yourself with the film that you're about to release, and you're thinking, was I clear enough? Is the audience going to understand this? And it's a tough balance. Like, do you want to take more time for exposition or give more hints at what's going to happen, or do you trust that the audience is going to get it? It's a very fine line.
Yeah.
Because if you explain too much, it comes off as lame or condescending. And then if you don't explain enough, then
it's just confusing and nobody has any idea what's going on.
And then the only way to save face on that is say something like, well, that was an artistic choice or whatever. That's why it's supposed to be vague.
We promise.
Yeah. But it was really cool to watch that Oneer film.
Yeah.
Which is actually a Oneer. It was shot on I just kind of want to share some of the details too.
Oh, no, please do, because I'm very excited about the camera for this particular project.
It was shot on a C300, a Canon C300, and they used just a prime Zeiss lens, 24 millimeter. Cinematographer knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I was
that film too.
Completely blown away.
Goes from a setting where they are at a club
with strobing flashing
lights. They're moving around Berlin in cars.
And in
back
the dark.
outside of cars, like chasing people on bicycles, on foot.
Yeah.
Moving.
And it goes all the way till sunrise. So it's sunrise by the end. It's daylight out now.
You can tell that they planned the final shot to happen exactly when it happened, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But they shot it from 4:30 a.m. to 7 a.m. They actually shot the film as an edited film first so that they could guarantee the funding because their funders didn't believe that this could be done in a Oneer. So they shot the film once in several long takes. They then took 3 other separate days to shoot it as 3 Oneers, and they ended up using the final version. So.
And they nailed it. It's a good one. Yeah. Victoria from 2015. Well done.
$450,000. And I also want to point out that they had 3 boom operators and 2 sound mixers.
They knew.
1 camera, but you got to make sure you got to get your sound ready if everybody's going to be running around.
And if everybody's running around and you know they're going to a place, send some sound people there first to set up and be ready, you know, just in case.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. Is there anything else that you wanted to share about Victoria?
No,
Not you, but the film.
I think that's enough.
Should we talk about...
I've heard the word Victoria enough for today now. I'm good.
Should we talk about our featured filmmaker of the week?
Only if you can say that title.
Yes, I can.
Beautiful. This week, we have our featured filmmaker of the week, Adam Smith, a Milwaukee-based director, producer, and screenwriter with an emphasis in Southern Gothic and science fiction-related storytelling. Since moving to Wisconsin, Adams contributed to commercial projects for NFL Films, Mr. Beast, WWE, and the Milwaukee Bucks.
He is the writer behind the new horror short, Aromavision, and political satire, The Redacted States of America. I like the log line for Aromavision.
Yeah.
It says, with the invention of a television that broadcasts scent, an ordinary Milwaukee man gets pulled into a daunting new cooking show.
I am actually really excited about that film. It looks really cool. So Adam also shared with us that he nearly killed NBA superstar Damian Lillard on the set of a commercial for Mad Max, but unfortunately he was too busy working on a gig, which I feel like we can all relate to as filmmakers. So his schedule didn't allow him to elaborate, but I'm very intrigued.
Yeah, hopefully it was just a peanut allergy that almost got Damian Lillard. I don't know what his allergies are.
I don't know what his allergies are either. But I hope Adam will share more about that story with us.
Yeah. Excellent. So thanks, Adam. If you are interested in submitting to be Filmmaker of the Week, go to indiefilmpodcast/submit. indiefilmpodcast.com.
/submit. There we go. And also, one other thing I do want to mention from Adam that we'll link in the show notes to his website below. He has a program called Voices Off Paper, which is just a Milwaukee-based community engagement effort for actors and writers and creatives to come together for table reads.
Oh, nice.
Which I think is a really awesome way to expand community engagement and involvement and also test out your material and see how it lands with different people. And I just really love that. So it's called Voices Off Paper. And again, I think you can get on the mailing list to sign up and get more involved in that on his website. So we'll link that in the show notes. But it sounds really cool. So thanks, Adam, for not just doing cool stuff, but also for working with your community to expand artistic connection.
Because there's a lot of people that we get reached out to a lot with people with scripts because they don't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
And so anybody out there that, is interested in connecting, it's a great way to garner more scripts, especially if you're less interested in writing and more interested in directing.
Yeah.
There's tons of writers out there with scripts.
Yeah.
And some of them are good.
We'll find out if ours is.
Yeah.
It's not right now.
Yeah, everybody will see the evidence on that one. All right. So please, if you are not, make sure that you're subscribed to this podcast, like and follow. If you've made it this far, I mean, come on.
But also, if you want to find out what happens next, just subscribe. Though if you want real-time updates, follow us on social media. There is a little bit of lag time between when we record the podcast and when it goes live.
For sure.
So keep that in mind. But if you want real-time updates, Instagram and TikTok are great places to go.
YouTube Shorts.
YouTube Shorts will have them too. Yeah. That's fair. So just subscribe here.
Yeah, subscribe.
Or if you're on Spotify, go to YouTube and subscribe.
Go find us there. So thank you all so much for tuning in this week. We'll keep you updated on how the short film unfolds.
And if we ever get a cast.
Yes, that'll be next week. We're going to find out who's actually going to be in this thing. So hopefully we can find some volunteers. All right, with that, shall we succinctly say farewell?
Sounds wonderful.
Bye.
Bye.